It's not playing the game. It's winning that counts.
Yeah, baby. We're going to go out there and win.
This is Just Win Bets, baby.
Just win, baby.
With Joe DeFan and Shane O'Mac.
How do they keep winning?
Live on the Sports Bet Winning Network.
And here we go. It is, of course, Just Win Bets, baby, on the Believe Network with Shane O'Mac. I'm Joe DeFan. A lot to cover in the sports world as the Knicks travel to San Antonio for Game 1 of the NBA playoffs final. But we begin with, wow, the Carolina come out swinging as they win Game 1 5-4, as the Vegas Golden Knights came out 5-4 victory in Game 1. Hey, Shano, that future's looking a little bright, my friend.
Yeah, the future of over total goals in the series. I mean, we're a third of the way there already.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about my 10-1 ticket.
Oh, in your 10-1 ticket.
10-1.
I wasn't even thinking about that one.
Yeah.
I
got to, while you're talking, I'm going to look up what's the payout. I know not to catch out because I know our good friend Jonathan Davis is going to be like, do not cash that ticket out. But I'll look it up. Courtesy of our friend over at Draft.
To win the whole thing. So,
yeah,
it looked like they can last night. A little concerning for Vegas was that how quickly Carolina hopped on the scoreboard there, right?
Yeah.
So, they scored within the first 30 seconds of the game, and then they were up 2-0. And then Vegas came back, though, man, showing that resiliency, right? So you have your hats off to Vegas there for coming back and winning that game. And a tough environment down there in Carolina. That building was rocking, especially when they scored that early. I thought it was going to be over for Vegas that game. Because usually that home team, they're looking for something to cheer for, right? And that home team gives them something to cheer for right off the bat. And then usually that's like an explosion, right? Yeah. So, but hats off to Vegas for coming back, man. Coming back and winning it 5-4, like you said. Obviously our play of the under did not hit. We just said under 5.5, way off on that.
Yeah.
Hey, but both teams were under 5.5. So that's a win.
Correct. That is correct, sir. I'm looking at the ticket right now, courtesy of our friend over at DraftKings. The payout is 5 times amount of what I paid for. So if I put $100, it's at $500 or $600. Excuse me, it's the payout. Just saying.
Ooh.
10-1.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Are you gonna let it ride?
I'm gonna let it ride. I'm worried about Game 2. I'm worried. Well, listen. If Vegas wins Game 2, this you could turn off the light. The party's over. Okay.
Yeah. If you win the first 2 on the road, I think that series is over.
I think the series is over.
Yeah. I think Carolina comes back and wins tomorrow. I think they lock down and win.
Yeah.
I think this series is going to be a long series. Jonathan Davis, when we had him on, he said the same thing. He sees us going at least 6 or 7 games, right? So I think Carolina buckles down and gets Game 2 here, and then that's still big. All you have to do is the road team in Game 1 and 2 is win one of them, right? So then now you flip home ice advantage. So now as long as Vegas wins their home games, they're in, right? So that's exactly what you're trying to do as the road team in Games 1 and 2. Is just win one of them.
But you alluded to, of course, our pick over 31.5 total goals in the series, and we're a third way there pretty much, right? So,
yep.
Yeah. So
that's just Game 1. We're pretty there.
Yeah, and that's just Game 1.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And it could have been more goals. Let's really be honest. If you guys saw the game, it could have definitely been more goals. But, of course, we'll be talking about the NBA finals as the Knicks came out swinging in San Antonio, but after a timeout, San Antonio said, no soup for you. At the end of the first quarter, it's the San Antonio Spurs 27 and Knicks at 17. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
The Knicks came out hot there at the beginning.
They
were up, and then like you said, Knicks have 19 now, so they're down 8 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
So we shall see what happens there, right? So still early, obviously. I love what the San Antonio Spurs did for their fans there. That looks really cool in the stadium when they gave out the shirts, and it's like the old retro Spurs like colors all around the stadium. Why do teams go away from all those retro colors? I like them so much better than like the new stuff. The new stuff always looks so bland.
I agree. I didn't have an issue with it. I mean, it's great that they broke it into section. And those who are watching the game, they have the teal color. They have more of a lavender, I guess. Again, I don't want to butcher the colors, but like a purple, pinkish color.
But it's orange, right?
Yeah, the orange. I think that's a great branding of what they do, and why not? Why not?
Yeah, and a lot NBA's done that a lot recently. Like I remember the old Pistons logo was actually like a horse and like had like exhaust pipes coming off of it, and so the Pistons. And now it's just like a basketball, and it says Detroit Pistons. It's like so boring. Go back to the old school logos. I like them so much better. They have so much more character.
Yeah, no question about it. And what I love also is the kind of jump from the NBA to the WNBA, where they switch jerseys there, and they're wearing their jersey and vice versa. I like those times. It's kind of building kind of like a good relationship there with both leagues, the WNBA and the NBA.
Yeah, I think Steph Curry had a idea about that a year or two ago, where he said like NBA should have a game where they all wear like their WNBA counterparts jersey. Right. Like obviously they'll still say like Steph Curry on the back or whatever.
Sure,
sure. But
it should say Golden State Valkyries. Yeah,
right. It'll say like Valkyrie across, like whatever the Valkyries jersey is. I think that's a great idea for the NBA, and that would promote the hell out of the WNBA.
Absolutely. And of course, the Commissioner Cup is going on right now. The Queen of Baskets, Her Excellency, went 1-1 yesterday as the Mystics win, but the Portland Fire is playing New York Liberty right now, so we'll get an update on that a little bit later. Shano, you had a big day today where you were on VSiN's First Strike with our good friend Rob Marino and Dave Ross to talk a little MMA, especially for this upcoming card, and maybe a little sneak preview of Freedom 250.
Yeah, we talked about some about 4 fights on this week's card that I had plays for. So check it out on First Strike. We're gonna have Adam Martin on coming up here soon, and he's great. We had him on before, very knowledgeable, and he's gonna talk about some of his bets that he likes or who he thinks will win some fights. So you'll hear my bets again, but definitely check it out on VSiN. You can check it on their YouTube page on VSiN First Strike, and you can I retweeted it as well too, so you can check it out there if you can't find the link. But it's on our X page.
Yeah. And Adam will be joining us tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But speaking of MMA, we will have our good friend Nolan King of MMA Junkie. That's someone I'm looking forward to talking to there, Shano.
Yeah, man, MMA Junkie's huge, man. They are a huge entity in the MMA world. They break all the sports, all the combat sports news out there pretty much, right? And so they have that USA Today backing. So I mean that's huge. They have a really cool website too. They have like a forum where you can like post things and respond to people, kind of like a Reddit, but it's like all about MMA.
Yeah. So Nolan King, of course, will be joining us later in the show, and also talking a little college baseball as the Super Regionals are starting this Friday. Into the weekend, we will have, of course, Quentin Mills of the Insider Show. We had his counterpart there, Mike Grissom, last week to talk some college baseball World Series, or as they approach to the road to Omaha.
Yeah, looking forward to talking some college baseball, college World Series. Those guys over there do an incredible job, so can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard that Quentin is a DC guy. DC, the DMV guy. So again, the list is coming out, man. We're gonna have a big party with the DMV guys. We already have Sia Najad as one. We have Rikun as another. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, I honestly don't know where to even fit these guys, but it seems like we need to do a show, Jano.
Whenever they build that ballroom in the White House,
yes,
that seems like a good place for it, right? We can do it right there.
DMV
have all the guys there, the DMV that cover sports. We could like live stream it, live stream it on YouTube and watch all of us just like sit around and talk sports.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what we should do? And I don't want to get sued or copyrighted. Actually, we'll blame producer Mark on that. Have like the NWO, but have it like DMV for life. I'm just saying. No. It's good to have all these, and they have been great folks. All the DMV guys. I'm not taking anything away from everybody else, but always good to talk to some local guys around the area, man. Yeah.
Totally. Hopefully we need some more new ones too. They're always popping out of the woodworks.
Before we get to our guest, Quentin, Shano, a little NFL news, a little Brandon Ayuk kind of got in trouble. Any update on that? The current San Francisco 49er wide receiver who possibly wants to play for the Washington Skins, but what's going on there?
Well, it sounds like there's a warrant out for his arrest. What I'm seeing on Twitter is that, it's about that time when he wasn't reporting to the Niners camps and all that stuff, and then he took a video of himself live,
right?
Dumbest thing ever, while he was driving, and he was driving like 120 miles per hour, literally, like you could see his dashboard in the video. This happened about a year ago, so it's kind of crazy that it's coming up now, but
sure.
Supposedly that's what it's about, and so it's not like it's huge news, but I mean, I don't know if there's enough there to convict him or not, but maybe it's just some San Francisco cop pissed that he's, breaking his contract.
Sure. But isn't there like a statute of limitations? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, but I'm just saying.
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is.
Maybe we get Sia back on and ask him that.
So, yeah, get Sia on. He'll know.
Yeah, he'll definitely know. Yeah, exactly. Get Sia on and he'll definitely know about that. But yeah, we also interviewed somebody who also had a law degree. And this was last week. It's not popping in my head there.
Sia? I was like, Sia's got a law degree.
Sia does, but I thought there was another one who was a lawyer or studied law, and then he decided not to do it anymore. Gosh, dog it. I'm drawing a blank.
That one.
I don't remember that one. So many.
I remember Sia.
Yeah, definitely remember Sia. Definitely remember Sia. But no. We've covered over 50 plus different guests from all different leagues: basketball, baseball, football. Wait until the football season comes around. We're gonna have more college football guys. We're gonna have more NFL guys. We'll have, of course, the Wise Man and Craig's Mobile, of course, coming on, talk a little golf in a couple weeks. More UFC guys, as we will have our good friend Rob Nakamura there. He's going to be joining us as well there, Shano.
Yeah, he's joining us next week, I believe, right?
Yeah,
talk some Freedom 250 fight. So that'd be big. And then we'll have Lou on like usual. Mm-hmm. So we'll have him on talking some fights. And then tomorrow, like you said, we're going to have on Adam Martin talking about some UFC Apex card this week, the Bilal fight.
Yep.
So lots of stuff coming up for UFC. There's always something with UFC. Always.
I know. It feels that way.
It's the sport that never stops.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Again, we are on the Believe Network, and you can catch us on Believe, or you can wherever you get your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Amazon. The list goes on and on. iHeartRadio. So you can still catch us on YouTube as well, which we've reached over 14,000 followers. We thank each and every single one of you. We enjoy what we do. Check out our website, please, at justwinbetsbaby.com, where you sign up for our newsletter. We'll have more picks, of course, for the French Open, as WNBA, more baseball, MLB, and college baseball. We'll have, of course, Shano's UFC pick. We'll have the GOAT UFL pick coming on. There's still a lot coming, and that's going to be in the near future. Especially, it'll be my picks for the World Cup, and we pretty much have everything all set with all the rosters being filled into our model. So we're going to release something early next week, as in like a future pick. But also we'll launch our new podcast. It'll be Just Win Footy Bets with our good friend Brad Bets Footy. Shano, lots to do.
Let's get to it, man. Can't wait to talk to these guests today.
Absolutely. When we come back, of course, we will have Quentin Mills of the Insider Show next on Just Win Bets.
This is Just Win Bets, baby, on the Sports Bet Winning Network.
Our next guest recognized a massive gap in the sports media world and built the ultimate destination to fill it. He's a writer, presenter, and a co-founder of College Baseball Insiders, the premier platform for data-driven college baseball analytics, matchup projections, and sharp wagering insights. As the co-host of the Insider Show with our good friend Matt Grissom, he breaks down the game with a level that appeals to everyone from the casual fans to diehard college baseball sports bettors alike. Please welcome to the show, Quentin Mills. Quentin, how you doing, my friend?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to talk college baseball. The problem is everybody wants to talk to us towards the end of the season, which is obviously growing the game, but it also means the season's come to an end. So it's kind of bittersweet.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me start you off with this one, my friend. You know, you launched TBI in 2023 because you noticed a distinct lack of advanced data and in-depth analytics in college baseball media. Why do you think the college game lagged behind Major League Baseball in adopting public advanced matrix? And what were the biggest hurdles you faced in building the infrastructure from scratch?
As a whole, I think the NCAA is very click driven, if that makes sense. So I think, if they didn't come up with it, they're not going to do it, as much as you want to push them on the outside looking in. But we realized we needed to cover it for the fans, right, for ourselves. And a lot of this was so we could understand the sport better. So why not broadcast it to, folks like yourself and anybody that watches the sport? Baseball for the major leagues has it all, but college doesn't. We wanted to bring that narrative there. And, D1 baseball is incredible at writing, journalistic piece, right? And they have all the insights and things like that from moves and inside info. And then you had 11.7, another major brand. And they're kind of the social media, right? They're giving you the recaps, the game clips, just vibes, if you will. And so we're like, hey, listen, there's a major analytical gap. Why don't we attack this? We enjoy it. We see value in it, not only from a gambling perspective, but, just for understanding the sport better, who's hot, who's not, what teams can do things well that maybe it gets put under the radar and such forth. So we really felt like there was an opportunity and we hope to continue to grow. And obviously the sport is growing in itself. So we like to say we have a small slice of that pie in that, but, we're always wanting to continue the growth of it.
College baseball has changed dramatically over the last few years, especially with transfer portal heavily reshaping roster seasons after season, right? And it's not just baseball, there's football, there's basketball. I mean, the list goes on and on. From an analytic or from analysis, I should say, standpoint, how difficult has it become to build accurate preseason projections when roster turnover is at an all-time high?
It's harder for the mid-majors coming to the Power Fours. I mean, when you have the guys that are coming from the ACC to the SEC, they're kind of on par with each other for the most part. So it's pretty easy for that. But then when you start figuring out like individual players, mid-majors to that, it could be a little difficult. There's a few week lag. And same for the teams, right? They're like you said, the NIL, I mean, it's free agency. These teams aren't, farm grown anymore or organically built together over a 3 and a 4 year span. It's plug and play. And so you really have to give it a few weeks, especially from the data standpoint. You use the pieces from last year. Typically teams don't fully, undress themselves and rebuild. Usually there's at least 60 to 70% left on the roster that you can kind of have a base with for the first few weeks to get you by and just give you a rough estimate of what the team's going to be like, along with the fall, reporting and things like that some of our partners do. And you take that information as kind of the eye test, and it's a big cocktail, if you will. But it takes 3-4 weeks to kind of start getting that data. And then it's really, I would say we really have it fine-tuned. By the time you get into conference play, you kind of figure out who's who's not, and things like that. So it's a few weeks. It kind of seems like a long time when you're actually in that, but then you're like, wow, it only took a couple weeks to figure out these, these gems or these hidden teams, and you look back and you're really grateful for it.
We're here with our good friend Quentin Mills of the Insider Show. And again, you can follow him on X. And let me spell that out for you. That's Q Mills. So let me say that again. That's QMI. That's 3 L's. LLLYY. So for those who are catching us on the Believe Network, you can follow us on X and catch anywhere you get your podcast, on Apple, on Spotify, or on the Believe Network. Make sure you follow him on X. Again, that is QMILLLYY. let's bring in Shane O'Mac into here right now. And again, let me ask you this question here, my friend. Your show speaks to two very different audiences: a casual, diehard college baseball fan, and sports bettors looking for sharp lines. How do you structure your content so that it remains highly educational for a fan, but deeply practical for someone looking to place a wager?
We typically, the casual fan's going to look at the top 5 to 10 matchups. Whatever ESPN is posting is typically where they're going to end their search in college baseball, or Twitter, or wherever you get your information. So we may bet on Little Rock and Troy in the mid week of a game, but they're not going to do that, right? So we try to cater the top 10 matchups. We obviously have an open chat. We'll certainly talk games that somebody else, maybe it's not on our card per se, but we're certainly aware of it. And we'll talk about that. So we kind of like to have that open platform, right? We're very casual about it. We cover those 10. What other teams, towards the end are you looking at? Because again, this is a sport where you do find those mid-major hidden gems where there's great value that, because Vegas sleeps on a team like Little Rock. They don't know anything about them. They can't figure out where Little Rock is from, let alone, who's on the roster and, the portal and who transferred in and whatnot. Even with the big schools, they're not following who Florida gets or LSU gets, from Grand Canyon or where have you. And we know that information, right? So we try to pass that stuff on in a casual manner. And it's not, we don't want to be just a monotonous, okay, who do you have in this game? Why do you have that? We like to talk about it, not only from an analytical standpoint, but a fan. We enjoy watching the games. We love the eye test. We have bold takes, outlandish takes, whatever you want to say. And we just try to keep vibing really well, but also giving you information. That way you kind of stay in tune with us. So it's that easy balance.
Yeah.
It definitely is a hard balance there. Sorry for joining late. I have 2 young kids.
No problem.
One
I know the kid's life.
So apologize for that. But yeah, I totally agree. Like it's like same thing like in our world. Like I give UFC bets, and like the numbered events, like the old pay-per-view events, now they're on Paramount, so it doesn't really matter. But the general audience picks up on those like crazy, where like the fight nights is not so much. And like there's some good value there where you can still make a lot of money, just like you were saying with those mid-majors in college baseball. So what do you think is one metric or matchup variable do you think the public consistently overlooks?
Pitching wise, it's Sierra. Sierra is one of those where, ERA is what everybody knows, right? That's what everybody sees online. That's what everybody sees, from the reporting standpoint. And it's not bad, right? It does tell a tale, and it does tell a story to a certain extent. Where we like the more analytical stuff, the Sierras, the BABIP, if you're on the offensive side. And we look at those, and what that does is it kind of takes out the weird factors, right? It's very control-based. Hey, what is this pitcher doing? It takes out the bad luck per se. Maybe somebody hit a pop fly ball and the wind's blowing out. It kind of takes that stuff out there. So when you look at a Sierra, the ERA could be 5.49, but the Sierra is 2.86. And you're like, man, this guy's just, first few outings, he's having some bad luck. Just the ball's not bouncing his way. And that happens, right? This is the game of failure. It's baseball. And, you're always able to bounce back. It's just when and where. But that data tells us whether that bounce back is near or it should already be happening. Just with a little luck on your side, things will kind of balance out. Or, hey, this guy's been really lucky. He's gotten a lot of things to go his way. Maybe you should probably be cautious about taking that because his ERA says he's got a 1.87, but his Sierra is in the mid-4s, and you're like, that's not adding up. Something's not going right there, but he's getting hit hard. It's just not showing in the scorebook. We need to monitor that. So we definitely, I would say that's one of our big things. We have insiders power rankings as well on collegebaseballinsiders.com. That is, so our baseline is 100. So anything from a defensive side, sub 100 is obviously good. You want to be lower on that category on the pitching and the defensive side. And then you want to be above 100, the league average on the offensive side. So for instance, Georgia Tech was typically in that 130 to 145 range all season. Georgia was right there too. And then you had some teams that were, 89, 92, like Santa Barbara was always under 100. So you kind of knew offensively they weren't producing. So we like to use that to kind of give an easy way to say, listen, are they over or under 100? That'll kind of tell you the tale. And then what's this year? Is it pitching really well? Is it adding up to that ERA, or is something going on positively or negatively? So those are the big ones that we look for.
We're here again with our good friend Quentin Mills, and you can of course find him on X if you focus. If you guys look at his right there below, and follow him on X at Q. Let me spell this out for you. That's QMILLL. So that's 3 L's, YY. And then you'll click on the QR code, guys. It goes right to their collegebaseballinsiders.com. Check them out. I'm telling you, you will thank me later. They definitely break everything down, stuff that Quentin had mentioned earlier. But my friend, I gotta ask you before we let you go, and Shano, I know you just showed up here and you had some problems here, but another DMV guy. I mean, he was right on the list of Sia Najad. He goes with our good friend Ree Kuhn. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even Ryan McIntyre. DMV guys are just coming out of the woodwork.
No, where are you from, man? I didn't know that.
Manassas. Yep, just out Bristow, right there, right on the Manassas line. So, so we actually have 4 people at College Baseball Insiders. We have 1 in Arkansas and Conway. We have 1 in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then 2 in Manassas. So,
okay.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
Sweet. I grew up here my whole life. I grew up in Woodbridge. Now I'm living in Fairfax County. So, but grew up here my whole life. So, another DMV guy. I love it.
I love the DMV.
We got to grow the DMV in the sports world.
DMV represent.
We're gonna start like a DMV sports network.
I know, right?
Hey, listen, you got it.
Yeah, I cover. It's a sidetrack. I cover soccer, so the World Cup is coming up. So I do a lot of domestic and international, definitely a lot of international soccer.
Okay.
So I specialize in the soccer. We cover over 20 sports. So everybody has their own little niche there, but
it's hard.
yeah, man. Yeah, no, I get you. Let me throw this at you in regards to this weekend. Obviously, the super regionals happen. We now are down to the 16 teams. You mentioned a couple of them, Troy being one of them, Little Rock being another one. Of course, you've got some of the teams that have already made it, but was there any surprise Florida being eliminated? Even my Seminoles are gone. Kansas is gone. I mean, these are big names. Still people that are in regards to like North Carolina, another team UCLA gone. Is that something that surprised you in any way?
Georgia Tech did. I did have my reservations on them back in January. This pitching staff was pretty similar last year. The offense was there last year. They just couldn't really figure it out on the mound. And that was one of the things, they were ranked so preseason high. And I had reservations like, listen, they're top 3 in the country preseason. The staff is pretty much the same. Maybe they have improved, but we don't what are we going off of to just give them a top 5 ranking, right? And I understand preseason rankings are overhyped as in general, but just something didn't add up. So I am slightly surprised because they pitched very, very well throughout the entire ACC. And I'm thinking, okay, these guys figured it out. They are not fool's gold. They are the real deal. And then they have that happen. UCLA, I wasn't that surprised. They kind of played with their food. I said on VSiN a few times, it just seemed like they tried to click it on and off too late. And that one time you turn it on, the light bulb doesn't turn on. And that's what happened. Florida was very surprising. Florida had an up and down season. They got hot at the right time. So they had, in college baseball, there's the hot, cold, hot theory. They got cold midseason. They got scorching hot towards the SEC tournament. They ended up making through the semis, which some people didn't think they would. And then their pitching, which was their main point this year, even throughout injuries, was kind of their strong suit. And then they just kind of fell off, and you couldn't find a pitch to cross the zone that didn't get sent over the wall. But that was very surprising. And then Southern Miss was another one. That's a very tough place to play. Now, credit to Little Rock. They went in there, they handled business, but Southern Miss had played extremely hot baseball. The Sun Belt is a very, very tough mid-major conference. In my opinion, it's as tough as a Power 4, strictly in college baseball. And to see them just not show up, especially at home in Hattiesburg, which is a tough place to play in itself. So those were the 2 biggest shockers, I would say, were Florida, Southern Miss, and then slightly with Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Yeah. 3 games, of course, this Friday, and that's when the super regionals start. Let's start with any one of these 3 games. Wanted to see if you have a lean or official pick on this one. Let's start with one of them, and you can pick all 3 or 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3. USC taking on North Carolina. That would be one, and that is at a 3 o'clock game. We have Little Rock and Troy, which you've mentioned as well, at 5 o'clock, and then the late game, 8 o'clock in the evening on Eastern Standard Time there. Ole Miss and Auburn. Do you have any leans for any of these games?
I do. I took Ole Miss plus 1.5. Our site, we like to do the analytical projections. It has 1. I may even throw a little on the money line. Listen, they have one of the best staffs in the country. They have Hunter Elliott, who, by the way, if you didn't know, won a 22 national championship with Ole Miss, and he's still there. The guy's their Friday night ace. He's been there, done that, right? And that's a big thing at this point in the season, is a guy that can handle that pressure. And then Auburn. Auburn got shocked last weekend against Milwaukee. They gave up a 10 spot early on. They had to battle back. What scares me is for Auburn, their offense has been hit or miss. When it's hitting, it's firing on all cylinders. It's, watch out, these boys can mash. But when it's not hitting, they're very, very vulnerable. The pitching looked a little suspect for some of the tournament last weekend. They did get it together, but I think a lot of that you could probably attribute to nerves. They have some young guys. But Ole Miss is firing on all cylinders. Offensively, they're getting the big hits. The pitching staff is throwing really good. You look at that Sierra we talked about, they're all, sub 3, and you're like, wow, that's incredible. They're just playing great baseball at the right time, and that's scary for a team like that.
Ole Miss, of course, money line is at plus 145, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings. Put a little pizza money on that one there, Shano, is what I'm hearing.
That's what I like.
That's what it sounds like, man.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
I did take them plus 155 on the super regional price. I have locked that in. So that buys you a little leeway. I bought.
Say that again.
DraftKings is posting super regional prices. I got Ole Miss at plus 155. If you like just the single game, if you think Hunter Elliott's going to go deal, by all means, play the 1.5 or the money line. But that plus 155 gives you a little leeway to lose a game somewhere in that first or second game, and obviously you can still bounce back and win that ticket in a game 3 decision. So nice. I do like that ticket. I have that already.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with the last on Saturday. The official games. The schedule's out, but the numbers haven't officially come out, and we'll leave you with this one, my friend. You got Mississippi State taking on Georgia, Oklahoma. Very surprising. Some people looked at Oklahoma being a little surprising there. Taking on Kansas, Oregon, Texas, St. John's. And that was something that your partner, Matt, talked about last week. St. John's, look out. And they took care of business when they took out Florida State. So St. John's taking on Alabama. Any leans on those Saturday games?
I did do a money line parlay. Now, again, baseball lines are a little tough because, again, Vegas isn't necessarily throwing their NFL sharps on this to get that. So I parlayed Texas and West Virginia money line. I got that at minus 112. So it might have fluctuated a little bit, but it's still sub minus 150, which is a great number in college baseball. So I do like that. The other game you mentioned, Mississippi State, Georgia. Now, Trey Phelps, one of their best hitters, is suspended. He got tossed. Wes Johnson, the manager, is tossed as well. So he's missing game 1. Could that factor in? I will say this. I think it feels like it's Georgia's time right now. They're doing everything right. Pitching looks good. Offensively, they can't miss the ball. They're hitting beach balls right now. If Mississippi State does not win game 1, it's over. If you give, with Trey Phelps being gone, with Wes Johnson being gone, you give the Georgia Bulldogs a game 1 victory, just wrap it up. Give them the ticket to Omaha right now. So I do think Georgia will win the series. I think if you're betting Mississippi State, your best shot is with Tomas Valencius in game 1. But other than that, Georgia the whole way.
Wow. Again, we are here with our good friend Quentin Mills. Again, you can follow him on X. That is Q Mill. That's MILLLYY on X. Make sure you check it out and click the QR code on the bottom right corner. It takes them right to their website, and you can see exactly what they offer there. Shano, you had some last words there?
No, just saying West Virginia, Texas at parlay. It's still at minus 112 right now currently. I just put it together. So,
I love it. I love it. West Virginia's hot. West Virginia's so hot right now. I mean, they're due. They bounced back from the losers bracket. I mean, the entire fan base, I don't know if you saw on social media singing Country Roads. Like, that is just, they are living on the top of the mountain right now. And I want to see West Virginia and Omaha. I think the entire state would get off work to attend that. I think it'd be a magical place in Omaha and a hell of a time. Listen, and Rocco's, you better stock up because if the West Virginia Mountaineers go out there, they're going to run you dry. So just be prepared. Great baseball team, though. Steve Saban's hell of a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely heard of Rocco's. I've never been, but I definitely know where Rocco's is and what you're talking about. We'll leave you with this, my friend. And again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk to us. Where can our audience find, besides, your website or anything else that you want to plug, my friend?
Yeah, you can find me, like you've been saying, at Q Millie. That's 3 L's, 2 Y's. You can follow, Matt Grissom, the guy you had last week, one of my good friends, my co-host, my partner. So he's got phenomenal information. And then The Insiders is our CBI Twitter. That's where you're going to find all of our content, anything we push, whether it's social media videos, whether it's, stats, analytics, and then obviously the website, collegebaseballinsiders.com, is what we like to call the Bible of college baseball. You get that. That's the Holy Grail. It's got all the information you would ever think to need. And then, like I said, if you have anything, reach out to us on Twitter. We're very active, respond within minutes, typically if I have a free time between the kids. So will answer anything at any time. And if I don't know, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to tell you I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love what you guys do. I've seen their website, Shano. It's full of information. I mean, you can't go wrong with this when it comes to college baseball betting, especially for that. Yeah,
the breakdown we saw last week with your host there, man, that thing's like super in depth. And I was like, I gotta get you one.
For sure. Well, you can still get it for the Super Regional and College World Series. They get more in depth, obviously, as less teams, more page, more space, and we start breaking them down really intimately. So if you're out there and you still think hell, the games haven't even started yet, so you can still get 2 guides at a reasonable price. And it's got, like you guys said, it's got everything you need. It's got all the information, and it updates live. We're always updating it. So, if Little Rock wins game 1s, things are going to change on the percentages and the analytics. Sure. So that's something that a magazine doesn't do. That's something that we do provide.
Yeah, highly recommend it, guys. Really do. Quentin, we truly appreciate your time. Good luck to you this weekend and for the rest of the College Baseball World Series. And we hope to have you and Matt on again, not preferably, towards this part of the season, even though we love it, but we'll have you definitely in before that, my friend.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
When we return, of course, we will have our friend Nolan King from USA Today and MMA next on Just Win Bets.
This is Just Win Bets, baby, on the Sports Bet Winning Network.
Our guest today is one of the most respected and tireless voices in combat sports journalism. As a lead reporter and editor for MMA Junkie and the USA Today Sports Network, he is the man behind the headlines, consistently breaking the biggest fight bookings, tracking complex legal battles, and delivering airtight coverage of the MMA world. If a major story is breaking in the UFC or PFL, odds are he's the one who broke it first. Please welcome to the show, Nolan King. Nolan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Joe. That was quite the intro. I appreciate you pumping up my tires a little bit here before we get going. And I appreciate you guys having me on. I know we've been trying to do this for a little bit, so it's good to finally be able to align with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm always look forward to talking fights with people. Always love that.
Yeah, Shane handles all of our UFC, all of our MMA stuff. But let's kick it off with this particular question, my friend. You've built a massive reputation as one of the go-to newsbreakers in combat sports in an era where anyone with a social media account can claim to have quote-unquote scoops. What does your vetting process look like to ensure accuracy before you hit tweet or publish?
That's a good question, and I think, like you said, it's in 2026, the news cycle is a little bit interesting in terms of people saying they have inside information. You see a lot of accounts just either post stuff that is completely fabricated, or some people that maybe they've heard some things that are somewhat true or developing situations, and they maybe pull the trigger a little bit too quickly. But I guess for me, it's always been about building relationship with people that you can trust, right? And so for me, I came into the industry or into the social media space at a time where the algorithms really built you a little bit more on your, how reliable you are. Now it's more about how much attention can you attract at the time. So I think through just building relationships and realizing that people are trustworthy, and maybe not even the first time you deal with somebody, right? Maybe they're a new person that you've never talked to before. Making sure that they're right a few times before you start trusting them totally. And it's not anything, sometimes I've had people kind of take offense to that, right? Like, oh, you don't believe me, or I'm telling you this. But there's been people that have come out of the woodwork to try to manipulate situations, even people of authority. So I think you always got to do that. You got to have multiple sources, make sure, especially with fight news, right? There's two parts in an equation. You kind of want to make sure, even if, or really three, right? There's a promotion too.
Right.
But you got to try to make sure everybody's on board. So that's kind of what I've always done is it's better to be 100% right and post it than be 99% right and put it out and be wrong. So, I just think it's the paramount to be correct at the end of the day. And so if I can't tell you with great certainty or absolute certainty that something's going to happen or that everybody's involved is on board, then I'm not going to post it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's better to be 100% right for sure. And then you see a lot of this on X and Twitter or whatever you want to call it, where people just try and throw stuff out there just to get their name out there and get the followers and get the views, even though there's some speculation and stuff. But a lot of times they're wrong, and it's definitely better to get 100% right. You talked about building those relationships, and that could be with, fighters, coaches, managers, promoters, whoever. But it's also kind of hard sometimes when you have to break some negative news. How do you handle that backlash when a story you break upsets someone you have to cover the next week?
Thing is honesty, right? Like for me, I think if you're very clear with people about what your job is, and you never over time don't let that get blurred too, right? I think sometimes keeping people at a medium distance is the best place to be. You get too close to them, then they think when something happens and you have to resort back to doing your job, that you're doing something wrong for them. And if you're too standoffish, then obviously they're probably not going to deal with you on a regular basis. So for me, I think it's always keeping a medium distance, always reminding people of what my role is. And ultimately, when it comes time to have those difficult conversations, to be very clear about what my role is in this whole thing and what I'm trying to do, and not be misleading or have people feel like you tricked them. And sometimes that means like asking some very uncomfortable questions, right? I think you see sometimes with media, questions that are kind of soft and they beat around the bush. And I think sometimes that can almost be worse than asking a direct question, because it can be disarming for some people answering it. Perhaps they think you're going in a different direction. So just be direct, be clear about what your role is. And I guess don't get too close to people that you may have to eventually have a difficult conversation with.
Yeah, he makes a valid point there, Shano. I mean, business is business, as they say. You know what I mean? So You got to cover what you got to cover. I mean, I truly appreciate that. We're with our good friend Nolan King. Again, you can follow him on X, and you can see it right there below at MMA_Kings. And don't forget to click on the QR code. It can go right to, of course, his Twitter page where he shows exactly he's with, of course, MMA Junkie. So it'll take you, of course, to that as well. Let me ask this question, my friend. The landscape of the MMA media has shifted dramatically, with a lot of promotions leaning into their own quote-unquote in-house media and traditional access getting tighter. How do you feel the role of the independent investigative journalist has changed since you first started?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's certainly the lines have been blurred as to what media means. Like when I first was starting to get into this, it was really, really hard to get credentials. And there would be some sites that maybe were kind of beginner level sites for people that were really looking to get into the industry, to do things the right way and to follow a traditional reporting standard of guidelines. And so I was lucky enough, there was a website which no longer exists. It was just kind of a hobbyist sort of thing called MMA Today. And we tried for a while to get credentials. We had people that, again, we weren't Ariel Helwani, we weren't, Luke Thomas, we weren't super polished people, but I think the idea was to try to build in a similar way to get to a point where, each and every one of us could feel like we were on that level, that we were following the same sort of protocol. So it was very, very difficult at that time. And then you fast forward through the pandemic, everything that happened there, and you go till today. And it does seem like there are a lot of like influencer types and some, people that kind of are in these media spaces that you're not necessarily sure how they got credentials. And that's not to sound like I'm talking down on everybody. I just think the standard has changed of what media means. And so it has been a little bit challenging. I think, you see it sometimes with like Dana White, right? He does interviews, I think mostly with people with massive audiences that maybe are more casual about the sport. Pat McAfee, Jim Rome, they have huge audiences, and it's really smart for him to go on there, and he doesn't necessarily have to face as many difficult questions. So I think in that regard, access has changed. Again, I'm not somebody that necessarily ever had like a super tight relationship with the UFC or anything. So it hasn't necessarily changed for me. But you can just see that the industry swung where investigative reporters, people that ask more of those sort of difficult questions have somewhat organically, and I would assume intentionally, been kind of, I don't want to say pushed out of this space, but certainly there's a lot more people. It's a lot more crowded of an industry, and the opportunities to talk to people and have meaningful conversations are a lot less because of that.
You brought up a Dana White interview, and as soon as he said that, it popped in my head. Do you remember a couple of years ago when he was on that interview and the interviewer thought he was Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Sage Steele, right?
Sage Steele. Yeah. It was Sage Steele.
Yeah.
I don't know why it just popped.
We all have bad moments, but that was definitely one that was worse than some. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
But he definitely sticks to those bigger ones. I think he was on I can't remember if it's Logan or Jake Paul. I always get them confused. But one of the Paul brothers podcasts, he was on there too with Pat McAfee as well on all those shows.
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah.
And the people that we've talked to, we had the privilege to talk to, like a Bruce Buffer, great guy, strictly business, obviously with him, and Joe A. Martinez, another ring announcer, of course, as you know, does more of the Apex, and he does some other UFC cards as well. But yeah, I respect a lot of the UFC guys, and looking forward, obviously, to the White House. We're about 30 minutes away from out of DC, so we're in Northern Virginia.
Nice.
So no, we don't have the credentials for it, but it would have been nice to be there. But I mean, it's hard for anybody,
Definitely is.
Yeah, for sure. And I know with that too, like it's going to have a media attention that we've never seen with a UFC event. Like, we're owned by USA Today, right? So we have our MMA Junkie team, and we're a property of this larger network of USA Today Sports. And we do occasionally collaborate. I think it's gotten better over the years, where we were kind of our own thing and they were kind of their own thing. But
sure,
more recently we've been collaborating. But with this specifically, I believe we're going to have teams from kind of both, the people following the news in the political news, and then us as well. So it's gonna, I'm sure that we're not alone too. I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of outlets that are there that never have ever covered a UFC event and now are on site for that. So it'll definitely be I'm sure a crowded media room.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that's unprecedented, right? I mean, it's never happened before. We never seen anything like this before, where it's on like.
Yeah, we may never see anything like it again, too.
Yeah,
yeah. I think this is like the UFC's I think it's like their only second event that's ever been outdoors. I think in the first place, so it's very rare that they have outdoor events. And then you're on the White House lawn, and then just so you have the political tie-ins like you're talking about and all that stuff. I mean, it's going to be like a media crazy there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see kind of how that plays out. I know they have some unique things in mind for next week. I believe they're doing the press conference at the Ellipse, and they have some other media sort of tour things planned. But actually on fight night, I don't think there might be like one or two reporters that they're letting in overall that are going to be actually at like cage side at the fights, and then everybody else is going to be at a remote location. It'll be like, I don't know, some hotel chain. You're sitting in the ballroom there. So it won't be, even if for those that are credentialed, I think they'll get their taste mostly of kind of the uniqueness of the event in the pre-fight events that lead up to the actual card itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that event, did you see, like, I think it was today or yesterday, Trump came out and said he might keep the call out in front of the White House for long. I mean, not keep it up there forever.
Next scene, we got Contender Series going every Tuesday.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like he's keeping it for his own personal entertainment there. Like he can book his own fights, and I don't know what he's doing really with it.
You never know. You never know.
Be nice.
We're with our good friend Nolan King, and again, you can follow him on X at MMA_Kings, and again, click the QR code; it takes them right to the MMA Junkie. Speaking of them, I wanted to ask you this question, my friend. I'm sorry. I know you spent years grinding and contributing to databases and worked other jobs before landing at MMA Junkie, right? So, looking back at that younger version of yourself, trying to break into the industry, what was the defining moment where you realized, okay, I can actually do this for a living?
Yeah, it was, I did this for fun. I did it. Was bored one day in my dorm room, created a Twitter account because I loved MMA and the UFC and I didn't know anybody else that did. So kind of built my brand on social media, and then again, just did it for fun, was never expecting anything to come of it. And, got a couple of offers from websites, blog sort of types. Actually at the time, I think their fan side had reached out to me for kind of a monthly paid thing. And I was like, I'm a student at school. Like I have too much, not enough time to do it. I'm studying, things like that. And then eventually I found that MMA Today site that I talked about where I was able to fit it to my own schedule. There was no commitment level. And so I did that and then got a paid gig with Flow Combat of the Flow Sports Network, which I don't think really exists anymore, but Flow Sports still does. I would say that, though, the time that I really felt like it could be something that I do for a living was around the time that I was graduating from the University of New Hampshire with a biomedical science degree. I think there was like a week period between when your classes ended and when you graduated. So I remember sitting out back of my little house that I had there with my two roommates. And I got a call from somebody in the industry that was offering, like, one of the big dogs. And they were asking, are you interested in potentially doing this for a living? And I'd, gained a little bit of momentum before that, but you never really know until you know. And so he put out that feeler. We talked for a little bit. They ended up going in a different direction, but I knew at that time that, okay, this is something that's achievable if you stay with this, if you're getting all this praise, you weren't even technically out of college yet when they were calling you. And so I stuck with it for like freelancing, working a couple other part-time jobs for like a full year after college. And right around the year mark, that group circled back to me, a couple others groups circled back to me. There was a lot of movement in the industry at the time. And ultimately I went with MMA Junkie.
Nice.
I'm very happy for you. I'm definitely happy for you, my friend.
I'm curious. Was your college degree like journalism and related to this at all, or was it something totally different?
I was a biomedical science major who had intended to go on and do like physician assistant work, do a couple more years of school. So I was working on an ambulance, trying to get. They made you get like patient hours dealing with people, and before you were able to apply to the grad school program. So that's where I was kind of at for that year between college and ultimately getting with Junkie. So totally went from, helping people and trying to prevent their health from going downhill to covering a sport that's pretty damn grueling and has a lot of bad injuries. So it's kind of a weird yin yang sort of thing for me, but I'm very happy. I ultimately went with something I knew would make me happy and that I had passion for. And I haven't regretted it since.
So what you're saying is you can get the media credential and be the cut man.
Yeah, true. That's true. It's funny. It was right around the time of. It's actually funny you bring that up. I hadn't thought of this for a while. Right around the time that I had moved away from the ambulance service. I think I maybe had the offer from Junkie and I agreed, but there was like a barrier period before I joined, like a month or something. Sure. So around that time, there had been rumors that Artem Lobov and Paulie Malignaggi were going to fight in bare knuckle in my college town in New Hampshire. And it ultimately ended up happening at some other location. But I remember at the time thinking, like, if I stuck around here for another month and I got people to sign the appropriate paperwork, which probably would never have been able to, my ambulance service would have nipped that in the bud. Like, could have had one of the cooler stories in MMA history of what it's like, in the post-fight medicals and the ambulance and the scenes after that. But ultimately that event never happened. I joined Junkie, and I left the ambulance. So, but I remember at the time thinking that was a weird middle ground. I think I was even maybe freelancing at the time. And so I was thinking that would be really odd if I ended up working that night and had to do the ambulance detail for that event.
Yeah. That's a cool story though. I like that. So I got a question for you. We ask all of our combat guests that we have on this just to get like our fans, get you guys to know you better, and like who's type style of fighters that you like to watch. So who's on your Mount Rushmore? Not who do you think's the greatest of all time, but like your personal Mount Rushmore, your 4 favorite fighters like all time to watch. It could be MMA, boxing, any combat related fighter.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes into my brain is easy, and that's Anderson Silva. I think he's one of the guys that got me into the sport. I think it's hard for people that didn't live through a time period of the UFC to fully understand the context of somebody in the situations and just their abilities. Like, you can watch a highlight reel. I think anybody that likes MMA could watch Anderson Silva duck and Forrest Griffin punches and kind of realize like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good highlight. But unless you lived it and you never saw him lose and you never saw the highlight immediately after of Chris Weidman knocking him out, I don't think you could really recognize the aura he had. So he's probably the first one that comes to mind. The second one also has a similar aura, was Fedor Emelianenko. I think even now, like there's certain fighters that the number's gone down over the years of fighters when you're around them covering the sport that you really feel like oh man, like he's in this room, right? And he's still one of those guys even today. I've interviewed him a handful of times, when Bellator was around, and like I still feel that way if I end up in a room with him. So he's probably number 2. The third one is going to be weird, but I also have like a personal attachment, which would be Kimbo Slice. I think he did way more for this sport than people are like give him credit for. I think he brought in a whole audience of people that maybe loved fights. They loved MMA and they didn't know it. They didn't know this thing existed they liked. So I always had a lot of respect for him. I remember he's probably who really propelled me from being a casual kind of distant follower who knew some of the fighters, and if it was on, maybe I'd throw it on, to being like, I want to watch this. I want to see him fight. I want to see how he does on The Ultimate Fighter and in the UFC. And that's what turned me into a fan. So I understand maybe there's some criticism of that pick, but it's a little bit of a personal one for me. And then the fourth one, little tough to say. I think maybe for me, because I've covered his career to a deeper extent than most at this point, would be Cain Velasquez. He had that aura a little bit in his prime. He always had that what if for me. What if he didn't get hurt? What if he had continued? And then I covered his legal situation pretty closely in the recent years. So I feel like I know a lot about him. So I'm not necessarily sure like what these 4 fighters represent on my Mount Rushmore, but they all represent a different part of my build and my fandom, and then also my coverage as well. So those are the 4 I'm going to go with.
Well, you could have a chance to see Cain again. He came out and said he's open to a comeback, didn't he?
Yeah, I hope he doesn't do it, because I think there's a lot of time has passed since his last fight. Right. And I also think he's in a spot where I think he could work it for a promotion in a different capacity, right? I think he's somebody right now that a lot of people have empathy for. I'm almost surprised that the UFC hasn't done something with him yet, like induct him into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He's probably going to go there, because I think there's a certain, and maybe it's just him, he's never been the guy that wants the attention, right? Which I think was part of the whole madness that went on with his legal stuff. But if he fought again, he would probably, I think if MVP threw him on one of those cards, there'd be a lot of people that would tune in to watch.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Joe Fan, do you know Kimbo Slice at all? Are you familiar
with
him?
Yes.
Okay.
I know exactly who Kimbo Slice is.
I agree with you with Kimbo Slice. He got a lot of casual viewers tune in because they were just watching his like backstreet brawls and stuff.
Yeah, he was like think about how many fights you've seen online, right? Of like brawls, people some of it's awful, right? People beating each other up at baseball games, but there's always that draw and appeal. And I think he was like, in the early YouTube days, he was like the guy that kind of, it sounds bad, but kind of glorified like the violent sort of fights that you can see online.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Again, we're here with our good friend Nolan King. Again, you can follow him on X at MMA_Kings. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned it before we let you go. I want to ask you this question, my friend. Obviously, there is an Apex card this weekend, and you had brought up UFC Freedom 250. Are you looking for, like, with those matches in Freedom 250? I mean, there's some pretty good matches. I mean, I understand the world has. You could have had this match. You should have had this match. Yada yada yada. I get all that, but some of the stuff on these matches, and Shane, help me out here when it comes to these matches. Are you looking for any particular fight in this Freedom 250?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I remember when the reaction when this came out, I understand there were a lot of people that were disappointed, but I also think like in 2026 with the UFC booking so many fights and there being such a highly paced schedule that needs to happen, I think this was actually I think they did a pretty good job with what was available, right? Like Connor wasn't ready at the time. John has his contract situation going on. So I actually, if you take out the fact that this was put up as like, this is going to be the biggest event of all time and the greatest fights of all time. If you take that out of it, I think a lot of the matchups are actually pretty good. I'm most intrigued by the co-main event, Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane, just to see how Alex does at a third weight class. And I know it's an interim title, but something historic about capturing gold for the first time in 3 weight classes out of everybody that's ever fought. I find that to be pretty special. And Gane is kind of an interesting matchup. Like if you beat him, you're the champ. And if you lose, like, you know, you're not. He's pretty much like a super high. I don't think gatekeeper is way too disrespectful, but like a belt keeper. So I really like this matchup. I think stylistically it will be intriguing, and I'm interested to see if Powhatan can go for a third gold.
Well,
yeah, I agree with you with that card. I think like why people were disappointed was because of the hype before it was released, because they were hyping it so much, and then like I think it's a pretty solid card overall,
I think so,
top
too.
to bottom. But like I think with that hype surrounding it, and then they released it, everybody was a little let down about it. But you brought up like with the UFC's crazy schedule there. Do you think UFC's having too many events per year?
Yeah, and I'm a guy that like loves MMA. Like anybody that's followed me for an amount of time, I'm not a complainer. You know, I'm not somebody that's just constantly talking down the sport, but I think what's kind of killing it is the oversaturation thing. And there's really no incentives when the UFC's printing money to stop. If they put on a card and it's 10% worse than the card that was in that spot the year before, and just as many people or more watch it, why would they not book extra fights? But yeah, for me, it's just, I think oversaturation. I think the other thing that's been kind of killer is like having to keep up a quota of title fights in specific locations, things like that. I think it's made fights happen that don't really make the most amount of sense. And in turn, I think it's made title fights seem less big because it's not always the guy that earned it or the one that you know, we used to have times where there'd be a fight you'd really want to see and you'd have to wait. You'd have to wait for the other contenders to get out of the way. You'd have to wait for the rising star to prove himself. And now I think there's like, okay, who's the best, you know, who's the top person that's available here? Okay, 1, 2, and 3 aren't available. We'll deal with that later. Let's put 4 in. So I think the pacing and the oversaturation is kind of a problem. There used to be like a build. It was almost like a pyramid, right? Everybody building their way up to the top to fight at the top of that pyramid. And now it just seems like a whole, you know, just a large crowd, and they're just pulling somebody out that might be at the back of the line or the front of the line, and they put that fight on. So I think that's been ultimately what's made things feel a little bit mundane.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think they're having 43 events this year, I think, something like that. Right?
Yeah, and just like I think too with the amount of fights per card, right? Like when I first started watching, it was like 10 fights, and they'd hold 1, 2 events a month, and now you've got 14 fights, you know, every week essentially for the whole calendar year. So it's tough that way.
Yeah, and then what you brought up is perfect. I think it's oversaturated, and you see a lot of people, especially like on some of these prelims, like on the Apex cards and stuff like that. You're like, man, these guys really don't belong in the UFC right now. They're not ready for it. But then you kind of touched on a little bit. There's no anticipation or build-up anymore, I feel like, for some of these big fights, because it's literally just, all right, we're on to the next card, on to the next card, on to the next card, and it's like there's no anticipation, no build-up, and all that stuff. So I think you said that perfect. Yeah,
and there's also like a phenomenon I've noticed too with the prelims, where it used to be, you know, it would kind of be like 1-0 guys would fight, or 1-1 would fight 1-0, or 0-1. Now it seems like sometimes you'll see a fight where it's like 3-0 versus 3-0, and then a 3-0 person pulled out. We're going to put a 0-1 person in there, and it's just right. It's almost like they're just like, man, we have a certain amount of fights. We got to get all these people. Like, let's just book them against each other on the prelims without much long-term care. So yeah, it's just the name. Everything's about money, right? And if they a couple of years ago they were absolutely beating their records every week in and week out, and so we'll see now that maybe things have. The consensus, I think, from fans is a little bit more negative than I've ever seen before. So let's see if people are actually, that disappointed with the product that it starts affecting them financially.
Yeah. Nolan, this will be our last question here. Could you tell our audience? We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk to us.
Of course.
But can you tell our fans where they can, besides obviously your X page? You mentioned MMA Junkie. Is there anything else that maybe will be coming out soon, or something that you wanted to announce? Just want to give me an opportunity to share that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, you guys can. Everybody can follow me on Twitter. It's nicely wrote out there at MMA_Kings, and my Instagram is at Nolan King MMA. MMA Junkie is where my written work goes. We should have some pretty sweet coverage coming up between the White House event, the Conor McGregor return in July, everything in between. And then I also do a lot of work for Tapology as well, which is I've worked for them longer than I've worked for Junkie on kind of a more limited basis. Junkie's my main thing, but I've stuck with Tapology. They've stuck with me. It's been a nice synergy between the two brands. And so I want to give them a big shout out too, because I think they've come, even in the 8 years I've worked there, they've come a really long way and have done a really good job with that site.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan of Tapology, excuse me. Definitely check those websites out. Nolan, again, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck to you, obviously, with your career and your writings and stuff like that. But we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Yeah,
absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on. Anytime you need me, you know where to find me, and I'm looking forward to the next one already, guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
My pleasure.
When we return, of course, we'll have our best bets for the night here on Just Win Bets, baby.
This is Just Win Bets, baby, on the Sports Bet Winning Network.
What a night. Two great interviews, of course, with our friend Quentin Mills of the Insider Show, and, of course, Nolan King. And you can follow Nolan at MMA_Kings, and Quentin Mills of the Insider Show. You can follow him at Q Mill. Let me spell that out for you. That's QMI, that's triple L. So QMILLLYY on X. Brought some great information there, Shano. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, thank you both of you guys for joining us. It's always great to talk college baseball this time of year because we've got the College World Series going on. And then Nolan King, man, he's super insightful in anything MMA related. He breaks tons of news all the time. So it's kind of cool to see the behind the scenes there, what he looks for and different types of stuff when he talks to his sources, what he does before he breaks news. Super cool guy. Great to have both of them on. Make sure you give them a follow to catch all their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to click on their QR codes for each one of those guests. And you saw it on the bottom right corner. So it'll take them right to their websites and all the stuff that they do. Shana, I'm getting yelled in my ear from producer Mark. We went a little over the hour, so sorry about that, but we'll do a little bit better next time. Our plays, of course, can be followed not only on YouTube, but on our newsletter. So check out our website, www.justwinbetsbaby.com. And check us out now on the Believe Network. Catch us on Spotify, Apple, the whole 9 years, wherever you get your podcast. Shano, any last thoughts?
No, man. I hope everybody's doing well. Good luck. Hope you guys following us and we can make some money together.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll check out how the Knicks and the Spurs do for game one. For Shane O'Mac, I am, of course, Joe the Fan. We'll see you next time on Just Win Bets, baby. Take care.